In just 5 seconds, you can step into a reality where everything you desire is already yours. Close your eyes for a moment and let the room fall away. Because what I'm about to share with you is not a technique of effort, but a technique of return. A return to the place within you where creation begins. A return to the awareness that has always been shaping your world, whispering through your desires, and waiting for you to claim your rightful role as the shaper of experience. There exists a moment, so brief, so subtle that most people never notice it. A window of power so small that the mind treats it as insignificant. Yet within that window lies the ability to turn the invisible into the visible, the imagined into the lived. 5 seconds, that is all. 5 seconds between who you have been and who you choose to be. 5 seconds between delaying your desire and embodying it. 5 seconds in which you can lift yourself into a state where reality bends, shifts, and rearranges itself to match what you have accepted as true. This 5-second method is not about counting numbers. It is not about rushing or forcing or pushing. It is about catching the mind as it moves, capturing the swirl of thoughts before they harden into a state, and guiding it gently but decisively into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is the art of shifting from separation to unity, from hoping to knowing, from longing to living. You see, imagination is not just something you do, it is something you are. You are the imaginer, the dreamer, the one who gives life to every picture you hold within. And reality is simply the echo, the delayed reflection of what you have already accepted. When you understand this, you realize that shifting your reality is not about changing the world outside, but changing where you are standing within. When you shift within, the outer must follow. It has no choice. It is law. So how do you shift? How do you move from one version of yourself to another, from one world to another, from one experience to its fulfilled form? You do it through a decision that lasts only a few seconds, but carries the weight of an entire universe. In that brief moment, you close your eyes not to escape the world, but to choose it. You breathe not to calm yourself, but to awaken yourself. You feel not the longing for what you desire, but the presence of it. You step into the version of yourself who already has what you have asked for. You accept that as your dwelling place. And the moment you do, everything begins to shift. This is the 5-second bridge between imagination and manifestation. Most people hear the word manifestation and assume it requires long rituals, extended meditation, or endless repetition. But true creation is instant. Instant the moment you feel it real. The outer may take time to catch up, but the inner act is immediate. You can shift states as quickly as you can shift thoughts. 5 seconds is generous. The question is not how long it takes to shift. The question is whether you seize the moment or let it pass. Think of your desire right now. The one that keeps rising in your heart. The one that lingers in your imagination. The one you sometimes suppress because the world has not yet mirrored it back to you. In truth, the desire is the sign that another reality already exists for you, calling you to enter. You would not long for what was not already yours. Desire is the invitation. Acceptance is the doorway. The 5-second method is the step through. And so let us explore how this moment of power unfolds. Imagine you are standing in your ordinary state, the state that reflects your current world. Suddenly, the desire rises, I want to be this. I want to have this. I want to experience this. That moment is critical. Within seconds, the old self will activate. It will say, not yet. How? What if it doesn't work? But look at circumstances. That is when you intervene, not later, not tomorrow, not after. Overthinking. In those 5 seconds, you shift. You close your eyes and imagine, if only for a breath, what it feels like to already have what you want. Not to wait for it. Not to hope for it. To have it. To be the one for whom it is already done. Feel the relief, the warmth, the aliveness, the gratitude. Feel the new self, the fulfilled self, the elevated self. And in that feeling, claim it as real. Claim it as natural. Claim it as a state you accept. 5 seconds. Because the moment you feel it, the shift has happened. You have moved from one reality to another. You may open your eyes again, but you do not return to the old state. You carry the feeling with you. You walk with it. You breathe with it. You act from it. You respond from it. You live from it, not perfectly, not forcefully, but naturally. The world will attempt to tempt you back into your old reactions. It will show you echoes of the past. Old patterns will rise. People will behave as they always have. These are not signs of failure. These are signs of transition. You have shifted state. Reality is rearranging itself. The old world must dissolve before the new one solidifies. Your job is to hold the inner knowing. The more you remain in your chosen state, the faster the bridge of events forms. 5 seconds to step in. The rest of the journey unfolds on its own. When you practice this, you begin to understand something profound. You are not at the mercy of your thoughts. You are the one who directs them. You are not trapped in your circumstances. You are the one who selects them. You are not waiting for life to choose you. Life is waiting for you to choose it. There will come a moment, perhaps even now, when you realize that every limitation you have ever experienced was a state you were unconsciously occupying. And the moment you step out of that state, the limitation dissolves like mist, because limitations have no real substance. They exist only within the state that gives them life. Shift the state, and the limitation loses its foundation. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine someone who has always seen themselves as unlucky. They believe opportunities slip away. They assume they are overlooked. This becomes their state. And the world, obedient as it is, conforms. But the moment they enter a new state, just 5 seconds of feeling like someone to whom life flows easily, someone who is chosen, someone who has seen the world begins to adjust. People respond differently. Synchronicities appear. Doors open. It seems miraculous, but it is simply the reflection of a shift itself. This method is powerful because it is simple. It bypasses resistance. It bypasses logic. It bypasses the mind that argues and doubts and complicates. 5 seconds is not enough time for the old self to protest. It is enough time for the new self to emerge. Let your desire come alive in your imagination. Let yourself be lifted by the feeling. If you can hold that feeling for just 5 seconds, you have planted the seed. Watering it is simply remembering, returning to the feeling whenever you drift. Not as a chore, not as discipline, but as a natural act of returning to who you now are. If you desire wealth, imagine the ease of abundance, not money itself, but the feeling of security, freedom, and overflowing supply. Hold it for 5 seconds. The shift is done. If you desire love, imagine the warmth of connection, not a specific person's behavior, but the feeling of being deeply chosen. Hold it for 5 seconds. The shift is done. If you desire healing, imagine the relief and vitality of a restored body, not the process, but the outcome. Hold it for 5 seconds. The shift is done. And if you desire transformation, imagine stepping into the version of yourself who is confident, clear, decisive, and aligned. Hold that state for 5 seconds. You've already become it. When you practice this consistently, you will notice something beautiful. The distance between your desire and its manifestation begins to collapse. What once felt far becomes near. What once felt impossible becomes obvious. What once felt like a dream becomes your reality because you stopped relating to it as a dream. You accepted it as your lived experience. Reality does not resist you. Reality obeys you, but it obeys the inner you, not the outer struggle. The inner feeling is the command. The 5-second moment is when you give that command. Sometimes the world moves instantly. Sometimes it moves gradually, but it always moves. You cannot enter a new state and remain in the old world. They are incompatible. They cannot coexist. One must yield to the other, and it is always the outer that yields to the inner. Creation is not about waiting. Creation is about choosing. And you can choose in an instant. The 5-second method becomes most effective when you use it throughout the day, not as a ritual, but as a rhythm. The moment you catch yourself drifting into worry, shift. The moment you feel doubt rising, shift. The moment old assumptions creep in, shift. The moment you sense yourself shrinking back into an outdated identity, shift. Close your eyes for a breath. Feel the fulfilled reality. 5 seconds. And return. Over time, something extraordinary happens. The new state becomes your default. You no longer need to shift into it because you live in it. You think from it. You feel from it. You act from it. You respond from it. And the world reflects it effortlessly. People around you will wonder what changed. They will assume circumstances improved first. But you will know the truth. The change began within, long before the world caught up. The 5-second method is a door. Beyond it lies a life you have not yet lived, but have always carried within you. A life where your desires are not distant, but intimate. A life where you do not chase outcomes, but embody them. A life where you do not react to appearances, but create them. A life where imagination is acknowledged as the source of all things. And as you continue to use this method, you will discover that the greatest shift is not in your circumstances, but in your identity. You will no longer see yourself as someone trying to manifest, but as someone who is the manifestation. Someone who does not wish for abundance, but is abundance. Someone who does not seek love, but is love. Someone who does not chase success, but is success. The 5-second shift is a sacred pause, a moment of claiming, a return to the truth of your creative power. And when you live from this truth, life becomes a dance between your inner world and its reflection. You begin to trust the unseen. You begin to walk with assurance. You begin to feel the presence of what you have chosen long before it appears. And when it does appear, when the world finally mirrors what you have already accepted, you will smile. Not because it is a surprise, but because it feels natural. Of course it happened. Of course it arrived. Of course it unfolded. You had been living in that reality long before it materialized. This is the art. This is the method. This is the shift. The rest is simply the world catching up to who you have already become. And as you continue to practice this gentle yet profound shift, you begin to notice that the power was never in the length of your meditation, nor in the complexity of your techniques, nor in the repetition of affirmation. The true power has always lived in your ability to choose a new state in a single moment. 5 seconds is simply the doorway. But what matters is the identity you step into as you walk through it. You start to see that every desire carries within it the state required to fulfill it. When you shift into that state, you are not forcing creation. You are aligning with what is already true in the unseen realm. Reality is nothing more than an organized collection of assumptions made solid. And the beautiful thing is that assumptions do not require proof. They generate proof. This is why the 5-second shift is so potent. It allows you to adopt the assumption of fulfillment before any physical evidence appears. The evidence is secondary. The state is primary. Once you choose the state, the evidence must follow, and not by your effort, but by the nature of the law that governs consciousness. As you live this, you begin to walk differently. You begin to think differently. You begin to feel differently. You no longer react to circumstances with fear or frustration. Instead, you respond with knowing. Even if something appears to contradict your desire, you do not waver because you are no longer depending on appearances. You understand that appearances are reflections, and reflections cannot lead, they can only fall. So whether the mirror shows you what you want or what you do not want, you remain in command because you know the source is within. Imagine for a moment the version of you who has mastered this. The version of you who no longer rushes, no longer doubts, no longer fights with circumstances. The version of you who moves through life with a quiet certainty, not because everything is perfect in the outer world, but because the inner state is stable and sovereign. This version of you exists now, waiting for you to step into it. And it only takes 5 seconds to enter. Think of how many moments pass each day in which you could shift. A moment of disappointment shift. A moment of fear shift. A moment of desire whispering shift. A moment where the old self tries to return shift. It becomes a rhythm, a gentle pattern of choosing again and again until the new state becomes your natural home. Not through force, but through familiarity. The more you enter the state, the more natural it feels. And once it feels natural, it becomes your identity. And once it becomes your identity, the world reflects it without resistance. This is why the shift cannot be done with strain. Strain belongs to the old state, the state that believes the world is outside, separate, and difficult to change. But in the new state, creation feels effortless. You do not try to believe. You simply allow yourself to feel the truth of your chosen reality. Truth does not require attention. Truth only requires acceptance. The 5-second shift is the acceptance of a new truth about yourself. As this deepens, something else begins to happen. Your desires change. Not because you lose interest, but because your desires start to rise from a higher level of consciousness. You no longer desire from lack or fear or insecurity. You desire from fullness, from expansion, from joy. Desire becomes an expression of your creative nature, not a compensation for what you think is missing. And because of this, your desires manifest far more quickly, for they come from a state that is already aligned with fulfillment. And then, there is the most extraordinary realization of all. You begin to see that the 5-second shift is not merely a technique for achieving goals, but a doorway into your true identity as the creator. When you shift states, you are not just adopting a new feeling. You are returning to the awareness that you have always been the one shaping your world. This is why even a small moment of true acceptance creates such powerful effects. You are not changing into something new. You are uncovering what was always within you. There may be times when the outer world seems slow to reflect your shift. This is natural. The physical world has momentum. It continues to display the remnants of previous states even after you have moved on from them. Just as a train does not stop instantly when the brakes are applied, your old reality may continue for a time. But the moment you shift, the destination of the train changes. It may continue moving in the old direction for a while, but it is already heading somewhere new. Your job is not to judge the delay. Your job is to remain in the new state until the world catches up. You may also notice that certain patterns dissolve effortlessly when you shift, while others seem to linger. This has nothing to do with difficulty. It has only to do with identity. Patterns that fall away easily are those you never strongly identified with. Patterns that linger are simply the ones you have repeatedly accepted as part of who you are. But the good news is that identity is not fixed. It is chosen. And 5 seconds of true embodiment begins to loosen the grip of even the oldest patterns. You do not need to fight them. You simply need to replace the state that gives them life. This is the true meaning of transformation, not forcing change in the outer world, but releasing the inner identity that kept that world alive. Once the identity shifts, the pattern has no foundation. It dissolves without resistance, because it is no longer supported by your consciousness. Think about the times in your life when something changed so quickly, so unexpectedly, that you could not explain it. You may have thought it was luck or coincidence, but in the background, you had shifted states without even realizing it. A moment of clarity, a moment of confidence, a moment of acceptance, a moment of imagination. That moment, even if brief, was enough to alter your trajectory. The 5-second method is simply a conscious use of the same mechanism that has been working in your life all along. When you embrace this, life becomes an unfolding of chosen experiences rather than random events. You begin to anticipate good, not because you are hoping for it, but because you have chosen the state from which good naturally flows. Doors open, people show up, opportunities align, solutions appear. Circumstances rearrange themselves with intelligence and precision. You may marvel at the synchronicities, but they are not accidents, they are reflections of your chosen identity. The more you shift deliberately, the more you realize that you do not need to wait for anything. Not for time, not for other people, not for perfect circumstances. The shift is internal. At the moment the internal changes, the external begins its quiet reorganization. You are never waiting for the world. The world is waiting for you. And as you deepen into this rhythm of shifting, something extraordinary begins to dawn on you. The world is not happening to you. It is happening through you. Every person you meet, every event you encounter, every circumstance that unfolds is a mirror held up to the state you are occupying. When you shift the state, the mirror shifts with it. When you enter a new assumption, the world reflects that assumption faithfully. You begin to see that nothing is accidental. Even the smallest details begin to reveal themselves as expressions of your inner world. This is why the 5-second shift matters so profoundly. It interrupts the autopilot of old assumptions before they harden into reaction. Without the shift, you continue to respond from the same habitual self. And life shows you the same habitual patterns. With the shift, you rise into a new version of yourself, and life must respond accordingly. It is not magical thinking. It is law. You cannot hold a new state sincerely, even for a moment, without awakening its corresponding reflections in the world. Most people walk through life unaware of these inner states. They react without noticing the cause within. They assume circumstances create their feelings. In truth, their feelings create their circumstances. When you step into the awareness of the 5-second shift, you step into the awareness of cause. You stop being the effect. You stop being the one who simply receives. You become the one who selects. And because of this, you begin to treat each moment as an opportunity. A chance to choose, a chance to awaken, a chance to realign. Even uncomfortable moments become invitations. When something unpleasant happens, instead of sinking into the old pattern of fear or frustration, you use it as a signal, a call to shift. You close your eyes briefly, if only inwardly, and step into the state of the one for whom all things work together for good. The outer situation may not change instantly, but your relationship to it does. And once your relationship to it changes, the situation itself cannot remain the same. The secret is not in forcing the feeling. It is in remembering that the feeling is already within you. You are not creating a new emotion. You are uncovering the emotion that corresponds to the version of yourself you prefer it to be. You are not manufacturing joy, confidence, or abundance. You are simply stepping into the self who naturally radiates those qualities. The 5-second method is a doorway, and the doorway does not lead to something outside of you. It leads to a deeper layer of who you truly are. And as you immerse yourself in this understanding, you begin to see that the state you occupy is not just a fleeting feeling. It is a field. A field that attracts people, events, and circumstances aligned with its nature. When you shift states, you shift fields. You begin to magnetize different experiences. You begin to move through different timelines of possibility. You begin to align with realities that previously felt distant. And the shift happens not through struggle, but through a few seconds of embodied acceptance. Consider the moments in your day that often pass unnoticed. The moment before you speak. The moment before you react. The moment before you make a decision. Each of these is a point of power. Most people rush through these moments without awareness, allowing old states to dictate their choices. But once you understand the 5-second shift, you start to pause not with hesitation, but with intention. In that pause, you step into the version of yourself who already knows the right path. And from that state, your actions become aligned rather than reactive. When you use this method consistently, you begin to feel a subtle internal shift of growing sense of self-authority. You stop searching outside yourself for validation. You stop waiting for signs. You stop needing proof. Instead, you become the proof. You carry a calm assurance, a quiet inner certainty that what you have accepted is already true in the unseen world. And because you feel it, you live from it. The world must follow. You may notice that people start to respond differently to you, not because you have forced them to change, but because the state you are radiating evokes new versions of them. People who previously ignored you may begin to notice you. People who once dismissed you may begin to respect you. Opportunities that once passed you by may begin to flow toward you. You did not chase these changes. You simply shifted within. And the outer had to comply. This is why the 5-second method is not about achieving specific outcomes, though it certainly brings results. It is about stepping into a new relationship with yourself, a relationship where your inner authority becomes the foundation of your life. Once you feel that authority, even briefly, you cannot unfeel it. Each time you return to it, it strengthens. Eventually, it becomes who you are. And still, the world will test your commitment. Not maliciously, but reflectively. It will present echoes of the old state to see whether you identify with them or recognize them as remnants. The key is not to argue with these remnants, but to recognize them as fading reflections. You do not need to resist them. You simply remember that you have already shifted, and because you have shifted, anything that does not match your chosen state is on its way out. You begin to realize that persistence is not effort. Persistence is simply remaining faithful to your inner choice, regardless of appearances. It is remembering your new identity, even when the world still shows signs of the previous reality. It is holding the inner alignment long enough for the outer world to reorganize. And the beautiful thing is that the more you practice the 5-second shift, the easier persistence becomes. It stops feeling like discipline and starts feeling like truth. You are no longer holding the state is holding you. Imagine the version of yourself who uses this method instinctively. A version of yourself who no longer waits for moods to change by accident, but selects them deliberately. A version of yourself who can shift from anxiety to calm, from lack to abundance, from doubt to certainty, from hesitation to confidence, in a matter of seconds. This is not imagination. This is the potential already within you, waiting to be activated. And as you become more fluent in this inner movement, you start to notice something subtle, but profound. You are not just shifting into states that create specific outcomes. You are shifting into states that reveal who you truly are beneath all the layers of conditioning, fear, and limitation. The 5-second shift becomes a return to your natural power, your natural clarity, your natural creativity. You begin to experience yourself not as someone trying to create reality, but as someone who is reality's source. Even your desires begin to feel different. They no longer feel like distant hopes. They feel like invitations, gentle nudges from the deeper part of you that already knows the path. You stop chasing your desires. Instead, you inhabit them. And once you inhabit them, they come to life with ease. When you live from this awareness, timing no longer concerns you. You stop asking when, because you already feel the now of your fulfilled state. You stop worrying about how things will unfold, because you know that the state contains the path. Just as a seed contains the pattern of the tree, your chosen state contains the pattern of its manifestation. Your only job is to remain in the state. The bridge of events will form without your interference. And now, as you stand on the edge of understanding, remember this: the power to shift reality has always been within you. It does not come from time, from circumstances, or from anyone else. It comes from the choice you make in a single moment, the decision to inhabit the state of your fulfilled desire. to feel it real, and to claim it as your own. 5 seconds is all it takes to step into a new world, a world that reflects the truth of who you are. Do not wait for evidence. Do not wait for the world to validate your power. The proof is not outside, the proof is inside. The moment you feel yourself as the creator, as the embodiment of your desire, the outer world must conform. It has no choice. Every condition, every circumstance, every person will align with the state you occupy. You are the source, and the world is the echo. Carry this truth with you in every breath, in every thought, in every action. Let it guide you in moments of doubt, in moments of challenge, and in moments of desire. Step into the 5-second bridge again and again until the new reality becomes so natural that you live it effortlessly. For when you claim the state, you claim life itself. And so, let this be your knowing. Reality bends to the consciousness that holds it. The universe waits not for your permission, but for your recognition. Step into the state that is already yours. Feel it, accept it, live it, and watch as your world reshapes itself, not by force, but by the natural, inevitable law of consciousness. You are no longer waiting. You are already the fulfilled, already the creative, already the one who shifts reality with the simple power of presence, feeling, and unwavering inner choice.